it's hard to analyze data when it's siloed. So we've extended OpenSearch analytics to Amazon CloudWatch logs and Amazon Security Lake. Now you can get operational and security insights without duplicating data. Unified data with real-time insights, simplified.
Folks, it is obvious that security is important, and at AWS, we take that seriously, and that is why we consider security is job zero. And that is exactly the topic that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about in the context of putting security and observability together, along with CloudWatch. And I'm your host. My name is Himaya Kamajakanathan. I'll be hosting the show today. And I've been out for almost a month now, and I'm back to host episode 11 of your favorite show. And while I was out, a couple of my friends took over the show, and they did an amazing job. Thank you, Nereda and Andres, for doing such a fantastic job while I was out. So let's get right into the topic. Today, to talk about security and observability, I have two other awesome friends with me. Let's get into it. Let me introduce them to you, starting with top right. Sasi, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks, Himaya. Hello, everyone. I'm Sashikiran Maladi. I'm a Principal Technical Account Manager here at AWS. I work directly with some of the largest and biggest customers and help with their cloud AWS needs. And I also work with customers globally on their observability needs. I'm a big fan of this show, Himaya, and happy to be here and talk about this most important topic for our customers on security and observability.
Nice, and I'm Rocket, also known as John Nichols. I'm a solutions architect. I'm working with, similar to Sasi, working with some of the largest customers on the planet at AWS. Been here almost 7 years, and it's been just a fantastic ride. So thanks for having us on.
Thank you both of you for being here. This is really fantastic to have you both, and Rocket. Your video quality and audio, and you're the AV expert, AV guru, and that's unparalleled. Thank you so much. So let's start with the big picture, right? So why does this is a cloud operations show. We talk a lot about observability, but we are going to talk about observability and security together. But maybe we can also emphasize a little bit on why observability matters. Maybe Rocket, do you have something to talk about that?
Yeah, exactly. Working with these sophisticated and very large customers, we're seeing a lot of complex distributed systems, and lots of microservices, and along with elastic scaling, the attack surface of these applications becomes broader. And so having good instrumentation with strong observability in place, I see these customers, they really, really focus on this because it's part of running a resilient and reliable application. So if the application goes down, it impacts their customers, and that's not good for their trust and their brand. And even if you're running in a single small team, or you're in an enterprise, or you're running these massive planet-wide scale applications, things do happen. We've seen a lot of this over the last, several years, where we're getting lots more sophisticated attacks. Like, for example, recently there was a terabit scale attack, a DDoS attack that hit, and a lot of zero-day things that are happening at the application layer, so the layer 7. Credential stuffing is just a common practice, unfortunately. And then, of course, there's the insider threats that you need to protect against. And so the importance of having these tools and the visibility along the observability platform is incredibly, it's really important, and it is, it helps understand what's going on, and it helps you respond a lot faster. And one of the big challenges, of course, is you've got your security tools and you have your application and infrastructure monitoring tools, and crossing the chasm there, if you will, is one thing that I'm not going to suggest that you try and bring both of these tools together. As you get more sophisticated with your security observability, you have tools that are very sophisticated and specialized, and I don't expect to have one single tool that does all of this because of that specialization, but having signals that can cross from one side, from the application observability to the security observability and back. I think that's important, and it will help teams go faster when there is an incident and figure out what's going on. So I think, and I have some personal experience with this over the course of my career. I've been on teams and I've run teams that have operations with them, and I've seen it happen where there's applications start acting odd. There's infrastructure that's going a little sideways, and the teams jump on and start trying to troubleshoot. And at some point, it's like, hey, I think we've got an incident, and jump on the incident bridge. And the security teams figured this out, and it's like, yeah, we have a security incident, and that amount of time between we think we have an incident to actually acknowledging that there's something going on, you want to lower that time as much as possible. So having information that you can share across the different observability platforms is really important. And CloudWatch does a pretty good job with this, does actually a pretty fantastic job with the AWS services, and we're going to see some of that today. I'm really excited to share it with you. But just want to emphasize, one of the biggest things here is we want to reduce the time to detect and the time to isolate the issue, and then the time to respond to it. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sasi.
Yeah, thanks, Rocket. I think you touched upon really important topics for our customers, and we do that when there is a real incident happening, and it's important. There are two important metrics, two terms that we really use for the customers. One is reducing the mean time to detection, or the MTTD, and accelerate the mean time to response. Once you know what's an issue, how soon can you get a fix or respond to those faster, right? So if we're talking about reducing the mean time to detection, we need to understand, first of all, when there are so many signals, there's a lot of noise. When there is a real incident happening, when there is a business impact, real customer is impacted, how do we narrow it down and identify and understand where the issue is, right? So that is where the observability gets you help understand unknown issues. Let's say with the traditional monitoring, you would always get visibility into the known issues, like say something CPU is down, some application is impacted. But when there is a real security incident combined with your operational issues, that's when there are so many unknowns would come in, and that's where the observability can really help reduce the mean time to detection. And obviously, the next point is, once you know that there is an issue, then how are we going to respond to that? That is where important alarms to be defined on critical metrics, and have responsible teams be notified, and so that they can take necessary actions on that. And it could be manual and automated actions as well. So combining these is a really powerful feature to have. First of all, to be able to detect the issues faster and be able to respond to them faster as well. So,
Right.
and also on the cloud native observability tools have those intrinsic integrations with other services, not just on the application layer, on the infrastructure, and most importantly, other AWS security services, so that you get a holistic view of what's happening into the system. So combine all of these would really help the customers address any of these critical incidents happening real time.
Yeah, you both make really important points, right? Like an application goes down, it's all of a sudden, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. I guess that's what we think. Just talking about one of the popular songs here, but you always think that it's an application bug. It's a developer thinks, okay, what did I screw up? And a DevOps person, like, is there an accidental deployment? Did I not validate it properly enough in the beta environment or staging environment? It's always like that. But then, because it's not natural to always think that there is an attack, because you assume that things are always, good, and then you don't expect that there's a security incident that is actually causing the problem. It's really important for us to get different dimensions put together, get data from different places, so we can understand. So you made that important point. Reducing mean time to detect and resolution is important. So to resolve, you need to know where the problem is, and that's where it becomes really critical. All right, so we're not going to be just keep on talking. We're going to show some console and a lot of stuff as well. There's a lot of action that's planned today. For folks that are watching, yeah, I see the message. Hey, Daryl, thank you for joining from Ottawa, Canada. Great to have you here. we are doing something that we have never done before. I want to, make it clear for the audience. With the end of this show, we're going to open up a hands-on experience for folks who are going to be able to actually play around and actually do what we are going to show in the show and experience that. Right? It's going to be only a certain number of seats that are going to be available, but stick around and feel free to ask questions. Keep it interactive. And it'll be let's make it interactive and conversational, right? And like I said, wait till the end. There's something interesting coming up. Having said that, we talked about observability. We talked about security. How does CloudWatch come into this game? Like, what does CloudWatch do here?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. What you're going to see as part of the demo we're going to be doing today, and part of the hands-on experience that you'll potentially be able to take advantage of, we'll see VPC Flow logs. It's a lot of the CloudWatch logs and how you bring the information together into a place where it can be aggregated and analyzed and anomalies detected. So like VPC Flow logs, you'll have web application firewall flow logs, be able to see the correlation between those things. Additionally, you could look at like config rules and CloudTrail. That'll help you find and understand where things are to quickly isolate those issues. And I'm going to hand it over to Sasi to talk through some of the visualizations that you get with these dashboards. We've created a set of custom dashboards.
Yeah, sure. So I think the key is where CloudWatch comes into place, those integrations with other security services. So now that we have the integrations in place and we're able to collect and ingest those data points, now what are we going to do with the data, right? So that is where we're going to use different features in the CloudWatch to be able to both use build like customized dashboards, and also there are some out-of-the-box dashboards. We'll walk you through that as well. And the most important part is also be able to collect those metrics. Once you have, let's say, from the telemetry, the logs, metrics, and traces collected from these services, how do we transform this data into actionable insights, right? It could be actionable dashboards, then on the metrics, and then be able to define some critical alarms so that respective teams be notified and they can take necessary actions on top of that. So that is where CloudWatch can really help and be able to correlate across the logs, across the metrics, and you're going to use different features. Will also show like how the contributor insights can help with finding the outliers or the top talkers, or find out what can be causing the issues, potential issues, and so on. And we'll show some advanced logs insights as well. And these queries also help you to get meaningful insights out of your thousands and thousands of logs. So overall, this is how the CloudWatch will help with the security observability.
Sounds good. I can't wait to see the console. Are we there yet? Are we gonna do that right now?
Yes. And yet first, I just did want to talk through what the architecture that's available here is. What we've set up is we're using Juice Shop, which is a OWASP known vulnerable site, and it's used to train folks and help people identify and protect against some of the known vulnerabilities. So we've got this Juice Shop instance. In front of that, we have an auto scaling group that is fronted by a load balancer with a CloudFront distribution. Now, one of the things I did want to just point out is this is not what I would consider the best of architectures, and we did that on purpose so that we could demonstrate some of these challenges. And what do I mean by it's not the best? Well, this auto scaling group, it has one of one in terms of number of instances. So you wouldn't do that normally. You would have at least 2 or more instances running across multiple AZs. But I just wanted to point that out as we get started here. And we'll talk through some of the pieces of, as users, doing some DDoS attacks across this at the cloud front. We'll demonstrate some of the SQL attacks at the Juice Shop instance. These are known vulnerabilities within Juice Shop. So going from there. All right, I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to walk you through what we've got. So what we have is
before we get there, I have to say that's the coolest thing that I've seen. That is so cool. Someday you got to share all of that with all the folks that are watching, with all of us, and you're able to draw on the screen and do all that dynamically. That's fantastic. Again, proves once again that you're the AV guru here. So,
I appreciate it.
Take it away.
Appreciate that. Cool. It's called telestration, by the way. And I will. I'll come back and show everybody. So what we have here in this browser window, I've got a protected account. So one that's got the WAF protections and things like that in place. And then I have an unprotected version. And what I want to do here is show you what we've done so you can see the difference between the two. And I'm going to start with the unprotected version just to give you an idea of what would happen. And so I'm going to scroll back over time. Okay, let me orient you completely here. So we have a set of dashboards that we've created for this workshop, for this experience. We have an application dashboard, we have infrastructure, we have WAF based, and then we have some CloudTrail vulnerability and some other handfuls of things that Sasi's going to cover. I'm going to stick to the application infrastructure and WAF for the beginning of this. And what we have, I'm going to zoom back just a little bit, and I'm going to go back 6 hours because I ran this a little bit ago. You're going to see some spikes in traffic and some spikes in things going through the system. What we've done is we've simulated a DDoS attack using very basic tools, things that are everyday performance tools, just sending a bunch of requests in, and to see what the behavior of the system is. So under the infrastructure, I'm going to focus here first. And over the last 6 hours, we're seeing this CPU performance spike here, and I'm wondering what that is. And we've had let's pretend like we've had somebody call and say, the site was really, really slow during this period of time, and we're going in and we're looking around the environment. And I have this dashboard that was created as part of this, and we have the throughput of that CloudFront is processing, and then we have the CPU of the autoscaling group also on the same chart. And so what we see here is there's this spike in CloudFront, and there's a corresponding spike in CPU utilization. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? And as you dig into this, you start to see there's a correlation of the information going through. So I'm going to look around here just a little bit to give you an idea of some of the other pieces that we have. And we have a canary that's running every minute. So this is the CloudWatch Canary solution that's loading up the front page, just making sure that it's loading, and we're collecting metrics about what the normal load time is. We're looking for any outages, any errors, things like that.
Which we call synthetic testing, right? Like
synthetic testing.
It is essentially an external component that tests your application's endpoints and stuff like that. It's basically what you have set up here, which is showing, which is showing up on the graphs.
Exactly, and it's important to have synthetic if you can, because it will give you a consistent response, and you can measure that consistent response over time and start to see anomalies. There's the second half of that is the real user, which gives you what's actually happening, and that's equally important and can be more difficult at times. So I don't want to spend too much time there because we do have quite a bit to go over. I'm going to flip over to the protected account and show you the same thing that was happening at that time. And if we look at the infrastructure view here, we see some spikes that look an awful lot like that one on the unprotected account, but they're different in the shape. So you start to see the CloudFront throughput spike, and you start to see the CPU spike, but then it returns to normal. Well, why is that? What's happened is the WAF rule that is detecting the IP-centric, somebody's trying to hammer the system, it comes into effect and begins to block that from happening. As a result, and I'm now flipped over to the WAF screen, and I'm going to show you some of the same things here. And what we see is things like, what's the ratio of allowed versus blocked? And you get a lot more blocked here and very few that's actually coming through and allowed. And this helps protect your environment so that you're not having to worry about, I now have to auto scale up to address the throughput. All right, and I think those are the main points I wanted to show here in the piece that, having this information on these screens and combined in such a way that makes it faster to isolate. I think that's really one of the big points here. And I think for that, just on the basis of time, I think I'm going to hand it over to Saucy to talk through some of the next things with CloudTrail.
Yeah. Let's, I was quite fascinated by the difference in the graph that you showed, like with WAF on and then without WAF, right? Those two with CloudFront and the CPU utilization, how that was different compared to one that was secured and one that wasn't secured. So which is quite interesting to see, actually. Thank you for that. We have a kind of question on chat. Someone's asking. KMMX, you're asking. Synthetic means synthetic monitoring. Yeah, synthetics. There's something called CloudWatch synthetics, which is as the name suggests, it allows you to do synthetic monitoring. You can essentially set up canaries on CloudWatch synthetics to test your endpoints. It could be you testing your user interface, whether your user interface is working the way you want or not. Or maybe you're testing an endpoint, an API, to check whether it is responding fast enough or the response that you're getting for the input that you have provided is accurate or not, and stuff like that. You can actually custom write your code using Puppeteer, Selenium, and so on. So it's quite useful. Check it out. And also, hello, Timesha from India. I'm glad you're here, and it's quite late right now, but we're super happy to see you here. Thank you for that. Sasi, sorry for the interruption. Let's keep going.
Yeah, no worries. I think Rocket, you demonstrated a very valid use case of the DDoS attacks, what happens, and how do we get visibility into that. So let me share my screen and I'll walk you through another real world, and these are all real world examples. And this is, I've seen with other customers too. This is a use case where either intentionally, either through insider threats or unintentionally, somebody would change your resources, can be like changing your networking or ingress egress rules by accidentally changing those configurations. Or it can be sometimes even on automations. I've seen somebody is changing their load balancer rules. This happens all the time, even with some of the largest customers, right? So governance is for another topic where you can define some config rules, make sure this doesn't happen. But still, we want to be prepared for even if it's a valid threat or an unintentional change. We'd want to identify when somebody changes some configurations, how do we get visibility into that, and how do we find out? And again, we talk get to the issue faster. So for that use case, let me walk you through a scenario. So starting with the application health. So for this demo, we're going to use something called OWASP Juice Shop. It's an open source web application, but it's intentionally vulnerable application. So it's up and running on this. So for the demo, I'm going to simulate that in a different account. I'm going to switch my screen. So this is a different browser. I intentionally set it to light theme so that you can see the difference. So I tried to simulate that attack. Let's say that security attack happened. Somebody took over IAM credentials and they misconfigured some settings. And let's say when I try to access the application, I see it's not accessible, access denied, right? So now typically when I look at the application, then you would, starting with the infrastructure, you'd not see much changes because your auto scaling group is fine, your CPU utilization is fine, or you don't even, if you look at, let's say, for example, even on your EC2 instances, you would still see that everything seems to be normal, it's up and running, but still your application is not accessible, right? So that is where combining these application insights, infrastructure, and the security would give you that holistic view of what could happen to your system, right? So, and earlier, Maya and Rocket mentioned about synthetics. It'll also show how that will look like when something is not working, right? So you can define your synthetics on your application. It could be specific web pages, your APIs, your database, and so on. It's like more like heartbeat, and you can in real time you would know when something is not working, and you could get alerted and take necessary actions on top of that. So I'll walk you through how that the canary would look like. So I'm going to go there, and you could see, let's say if I take a look at the 12-hour window, the previous, you can see here the blue ones are the successful runs. It's all working fine until at certain time the availability have turned down. That means application is
What
not
exactly? Sorry, what exactly is the canary doing?
So it is checking, it is constantly 24/7 checking if this particular web page that I defined is up and running. It is looking for a particular status, and when the screen loads, it is looking for certain elements. When that screen is not matching, then it's going to say that it's a failure. I'll also show the screenshot for that. Let's say, for example, this is a failed step, right? And it will also capture the exact screenshot that it's at that time, right? So if I click that, you can see, and this is application screenshot, right? So it took a screenshot of that as well, right? And you can see the exact same thing in your synthetics. That's how you know that something is not working.
Right. I mean, this is particularly useful when your
Yeah.
application was not working for a certain period and then it started working again.
Yes.
So you can actually go and see what happened in sometime somewhere an hour ago. Something happened an hour ago. Now it's back up, right? So there's no way for you to reproduce it because it's working, but you can go back and see these pictures to find out, okay, this is how the application behaved.
Yes. So now that we got the issue, I want to walk you through how do we tie up the security information with your application. So for that, we've defined another custom dashboard just for the CloudTrail, to show you what are the different admin actions or what are some destructive events that would have happened on this account. And obviously, you could also build similar dashboards for cross account. That's another important feature. You could have the same telemetry coming from cross accounts, and you could define one monitoring account. You could get this visibility across all of your accounts. So from here, if I look at this customized dashboards, I'll also walk you through different widgets, how it's built, and how you can customize it yourself too. So in this dashboard, I'm trying to look at some of the console login events, whether somebody tried to log in with valid credentials or somebody is trying to either accidentally or intentionally, they got some invalid credentials and then trying to do that. And you could also look at what are the some top IAM events that's happening. And I've also defined some specific queries. And some of these, it's built on logs insights. I'll walk you through that as well. But the most important and meaningful information in this context is some of the destructive events, right? So we can see that, like you could see a certain user, certain roles with a specific role. They're trying to perform certain actions. It could be deleting or attaching admin policies to themselves, or detaching user policy to someone else. Or in this case, I could even see like a delete rule on ELB, right? So earlier I talked about this scenario. You
So
could
these
identify.
are these are CloudTrail events
Correct.
that have been that you're showing here,
Yeah.
and you have set up CloudTrail in such a way that the events are being sent to CloudWatch logs. Is that
Yes,
your the
that is
setup
correct.
behind the scenes?
Yes. So in the
Okay.
CloudTrail, you could, I can quickly show you that. So in the CloudTrail trails, let's say for this, you could set up multiple trails, and you have flexibility to configure what kind of events that you'd want to send it to the CloudWatch logs. In this case, I'm sending this specific trail to the CloudWatch logs. So this is a log group. And these are the different types of events that you could send from the CloudTrail. In this case, I've enabled only for the management, but you can do, if you're using KMS, like key encryption, decryption events, if you want to capture that, get insights, you could use that as well, or even including the RDS. So this is another important feature. But it's going to generate a lot of events, but it's an important feature for you to enable as well. Similarly, other data plane events and insights and even network activity events as well. You can configure to send these events from the CloudTrail to your CloudWatch logs, and you can do the analysis in the cloud in the CloudWatch.
Got it. We have a couple of questions. Maybe we can kind of address that so they are staying within the context, right? One, are these dashboards publicly available? KMMX is asking, are these dashboards publicly available? Yes and no. So like I mentioned earlier on, we are doing something we have not done before. So we are going to, towards the end of the show, we're going to give a URL where you can actually go and play around with this environment. So this is, it's going to be a hands-on experience. Just stick around and you will see it. So those dashboards are something that you can, kind of see for reference. You can obviously learn from it and build your own, right? So those dashboards are built based on what we have set up in the background, but you can learn a lot from that. And then Daryl is asking, how much log is there on the log views in CloudWatch dashboards? I am not 100% sure what that question is, but essentially that CloudWatch dashboards widget that you're seeing, that is essentially is a result of a query. Maybe you can just edit that widget and show what the query behind that is. And it is just a CloudWatch logs insights query. It could be a logs insights query language. It could be PPL, SQL, whatever. But end of the day, it's just a widget that shows the results of a query getting executed in the background. Then KMMX, you have a question. Do we have to install an agent or instrument something in the application? Or just because it's running on top of AWS services, do we get all of the log resources? It's a long question. Well, so I can give it a shot, but if you guys have something else to add, please feel free to add. Okay.
Sure.
So you actually can CloudWatch agent today today supports OpenTelemetry, and we also have auto instrumentation for a variety of programming languages that we support. So let's assume that you're running your workloads on EKS or ECS or EC2, whatever. We have you can go enable auto instrumentation of using OpenTelemetry for an application. It could be Java, it could be Python, .NET, whatever. And based on the environment, the settings will vary. But once the auto instrumentation agent gets injected into the application, it will collect the AWS distribution for OpenTelemetry SDK will collect the traces from that application and will be able to collect your signals. So through the traces getting collected to CloudWatch agent will send those traces, and those traces will also compute metrics out of those traces, like latency, errors, and so on. So you'll get not only traces but also metrics. And in addition to that, you can also configure the CloudWatch agent to collect logs, or even maybe deploy Fluentbit or whatever to collect logs from your environment as well. You can send all of that to CloudWatch, and that is what you're seeing here. I'm not exactly sure if this setup uses what I just explained, but that is possible today. It is super easy. I recommend you checking application signals. Look for CloudWatch application signals. And we actually did a session a couple of episodes ago. You can go look at the playlist and you can find out where we went really deep into how that works and what kind of data we collect and so on. You don't have to re-instrument your code or do anything to a very large extent. Of course, if you have a custom metric that you want to collect or custom things that you want to do, then you have to make those changes because you're asking for something custom. But otherwise, most of the signals must be collected automatically.
Sure. Yeah. So in addition to, thanks, Maya. In addition to instrumentation and collecting those, in this demonstration that we're doing, some of the services that we've integrated, these are all, you don't need additional agent for, at least for some of these. And again, each service integration will follow a different pattern. And it's configurable for you to send either the logs and the metrics supported, and some services would send it via event bridge event. So each service has different mechanism to send those, but those are configurable. And once you configure that, enable that, you can collect this telemetry in CloudWatch. Okay, so we'll continue. So in addition,
just to double click on that was just said. Can you scroll back up? You also have WAF and all the other WAF, CloudTrail, all that. So what you have configured WAF to also send events to CloudWatch? Is that what you said?
That is correct.
Okay, got it. So which which is what is making it even easier for you to correlate different things
Correct.
and create dashboard and make sense of it.
Correct. Sending both the logs and the metrics. It is a combination. So each of these widgets built differently. Some are coming the metrics, some are from the, let's say, for example, this is coming, we've customized it from the logs insights, and some of this, it's coming from the contributor insights, like looking at the top 25 IPs or top countries and so on.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay. So you could also, once you customize that, you could also look at complete information about the event, which user, what actions they performed, and so on. Either you could do that here, and also show how to navigate to the logs insight from here. And before I do that, I'd also want to call out. You can even bring your alarms into the dashboard as well. This is also another powerful feature. Let's say you can see that at certain time, you could see there was some this delete or destructive events happened, and you could also define some alarms and notified on that as well, so that you know that somebody's trying to modify something. It could be intentional or unintentional. Or now let me also walk you through. So let's say if you click here, then you could either edit directly or you could view in the logs insights. And this is the query we've constructed to get that information. So I selected which specific log group and try to extract from that event information, right? So I'm trying to use specific user details, and also did some filters, like trying to narrow it down by the deletion or the detached events and so on. And you could run that query, and this information is what you could export it your dashboard to an existing or a new dashboard. So this way you could identify either changes using CloudTrail, and you can get this information. And you could also see, so this is for either the destructive events, but similarly you could, and these events can be different types. So here I've tried to capture any route table changes, or even somebody modifying security groups or the network ACLs and so on. Even VPC changes are also important. So you could also identify that information. So this is how you can correlate your application and also security, the events coming from the CloudTrail. So with that context, I'd also want to give another real world example for the application vulnerabilities. So I think earlier, Ima, you mentioned about the developer or the app teams versus infra teams. So this is that another common scenario we see with your real world customers, and this really happens in the real world as well, right? So when somebody pushes their code, there could be, I mean, obviously there are some vulnerability detectors. In this case, we're using Amazon Inspector for that. So once you enable and configure Inspector on your application, it could be on your code repo or Lambda functions and so on. It would constantly scan that code. And if there are any vulnerabilities in that code, it will give you that information as well. So I'll quickly walk you through that. So I've defined, I'll quickly walk you through what I defined there. For the demo purposes, I just did a sample Lambda function. It has some vulnerable code in that. I deployed this function. And once I deploy that function, this inspector would scan that code. And these events, what we configured is an event bridge rule. And that event bridge rule, we selected the destination as a CloudWatch, so that now even we've included your DevOps cycle also into this, because this vulnerabilities is also a security threat, right, for your organization. Now that you also have this information, now you could see the vulnerability findings, the criticality of that, and you could also see what kind of vulnerability is that, right? So one is at high severity, one is at critical level, and so on. And you could see insecure socket. You could also, these are all coming from the standard vulnerable security codes. This is like exposing sensitive information to unauthenticated users, right? So this is what this Lambda function triggered, right? And similarly, this is another vulnerability. So this way, we're able
So
to
who found
capture
this? Sorry, how was this vulnerability identified again? Sorry, that's inspector.
inspector. I'll quickly,
Okay.
yeah,
So because you created the Lambda function and you set up inspector already, inspector found the vulnerability, and the
yes,
moment that was identified, it is getting notified to you because you created an event bridge rule
yeah.
that would listen to an inspector finding, and then what did you do after that? What does the event bridge rule do?
Yeah. So what we did, so in the inspector, first you need to activate, and obviously if you're using EKS, ECS, you can look at your container repository scanning, EC2, or in this case, I've selected Lambda for that. Once you activate in the inspector, then I went to the event bridge. So that means inspector is constantly scanning your code. Whenever there's a change in the code, it will scan that code and identify any vulnerabilities in that code.
And Maya, real quick, just to help bring this home, I've sketched this out a little bit so if you folk, yeah, okay. So and Sasi can chime in here, but what we've got is the inspector for this one particular area. We've got inspector scanning this Lambda code. It finds something vulnerable. It sends it to Event Bridge. We then have a subscription that goes from Event Bridge to CloudWatch logs. On CloudWatch logs, we create queries. We can use these different ways, or we have built-in things that create the CloudWatch dashboard widget. So I just wanted to highlight that, and I've got other drawings that we can go through later. But for now, let's head back to Sasi.
Got it.
Yeah, thanks, Rocket. Yeah. So now once the inspector identifies the vulnerabilities, so I've defined an event bridge rule for that, and I've defined a pattern. You could define based on what you're looking to do. So in this case, I'm trying to get the events from the inspector. The source is this, and based on the findings. And I've set the severity only to high and critical, and which are still active, right? So this is the event pattern. It's trying to filter it down. Then I've selected the target. You could say the target is going to this CloudWatch log group name, right? So once you have this configuration, then every time an inspector finds a vulnerability, that event bridge captures that specific event and sends it to CloudWatch logs, and then you can do your analysis here. And this is another custom dashboard that we built to capture vulnerabilities from your application. So we try to layer. Now we're looking at from your firewall to the CloudTrail events, and also scanning your application as well. So all this, what is trying to give you is the quality signals from different sources, so that you have best available information, not just your application issues, but and also security related issues, infra issues, and so on, all put together would give you better signals so that you can identify issues faster.
That's quite interesting. It again, this is not only the runtime vulnerabilities, right? But what you have shown here, it's not a runtime vulnerability per se, but it's basically a code kind of defect, and someone deployed that, and maybe there are no invocations on the Lambda function, but still, inspector will tell you even before the Lambda gets invoked, hey, there's potential problem there that you may want to fix.
Yes. And you could define some necessary alarms on top of this and notify those dev teams so they rectify these vulnerabilities. Or you could even include that in your pipeline as well.
And you, as a user, you could also get an alarm triggered on this, right?
Yes.
Because you can create like a metric filter out of these log events.
Yes.
And then you can get an alarm triggered based on there's an anomaly, or even if your tolerance is really low, even if it's just one vulnerability you want to get alerted, you can do that as well. So you can go beyond this.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've covered that, and I think connecting back to some of the previous, we also want to walk you through the contributor insights. Which earlier Rocket showed on the WAF configurations, right? So this is where some of those widgets on the dashboards, you could use the contributor insights to build that. So this insights, what we're trying to do is we're trying to identify different patterns based on your specific URIs, and we're trying to aggregate what are the like this is trying to do the top 10 unique contributors from which URLs or pages its most number of invocations, right? And similarly, you could look by the countries, right? So you could, yeah, let's say you selected the last one day, where are the requests coming from, right? So you could, earlier Rocket was showing the DDoS attack. You could also identify where are those data points or origins coming from. It could be different countries, different regions, and what are the different attack surfaces. So these are the different ways you can use the contributor insights to get that information, and you could again define alarms on top of it, and also you could build you can include this in your dashboard so that you can get real-time insights into that as well.
Right, one of the favorite features for me in CloudWatch's Contributor Insights gives you this live top-end report on anything. You can actually define your own, right? Like you can have your own rule, and maybe I don't know if you can show the rule also. It's pretty straightforward. People can just set up rules based on whatever your log event looks like, and essentially just go ahead and understand what your top contributors are. Cool. Is there anything that you want to show, or you want to go to the other?
Yeah, I think we've covered enough on this.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so let's go with we have roughly about 14 minutes, and we can get into some of the newer things that you wanted to show in CloudWatch.
Yeah, sure. So far, Rocket and I, we tried to show custom dashboards, how you can aggregate and collect information from different sources. You can customize, build it on your own. But luckily, there's also another newer feature in the CloudWatch where some of these dashboards are pre-built out of the box. All you have to do is just configure your logs to that with very simple settings. And there are some pre-built out-of-the-box dashboards. You could use it to get similar insights as well. So I'll walk you through those configurations. So in the settings, or even you can go through the logs insights. So what I configured is, it is 0ETL OpenSearch integration. What it does is, let's say similarly your WAF logs or the CloudTrail or even your VPC Flow logs, right? So for these logs, there are some pre-built dashboards. All you have to do is just create this OpenSearch integration with very simple steps, and all you have to do is create a new IAM role for that, and the data retention policy for that, and it will auto create. Then you can just create the dashboard based on that specific log group. Let me show you that. Okay, I've created that integration, and you could create dashboards this way. So for example, in this I have a WAF dashboard, and again the previous one that we showed is a custom build. This is out of the box. You do not have to create this dashboard. You just enable the configuration, then this is how it comes out of the box.
Right. So this is, when you say out of the box, it is just there. As soon as you have your WAF logs into CloudWatch, without you setting up any OpenSearch cluster or anything like that.
Yes.
All it is like magic. Essentially, you just you can push a couple of buttons, and then the dashboard automatically is created for us based on the data. That is because we know what WAF logs look like, and we are able to create that. And customers can also go create their own dashboards if they want to. Correct?
Yes.
And why is this important though? Like, why is OpenSearch important in this context? Like, why is that a significant thing that we're trying to show here? Is that because of its query language that people are familiar with?
Yeah, it's a combination of the query language, the familiarity with it. It's also the visualization you can get out of it, and you can do a lot. You can do a lot with it as well. You can extend existing functionality with it. So it's definitely I find it quite useful and interesting, and things that if you look at CloudWatch dashboards, there are things like, oh, I wish I could see this, and this OpenSearch integration allows for a lot of those scenarios. So it's definitely explore it.
Yeah, and also there's security analytics in the OpenSearch feature, which would also help for you to
Specifically
set
for this.
these detectors, right? And once you enable these detectors, you can get this log aggregation in OpenSearch, and you can also define alarms, and you can do respective actions on that as well. So that's another interesting feature from the OpenSearch. Okay,
Sounds great. Sounds great. Are there any specific dashboards that you want to show, or like how are you thinking?
So earlier we've showed a similar dashboard, so that's why I'm trying to show same dashboards here so that you can compare. So this is the WAF dashboard, and you could select specific any specific WAF URL that you want to do, and you could look at from which countries, which sources, and what kind of terminal rules, right? You could also do your DDoS protection rules or default rules, or what kind of rules that you defined in WAF. You could filter that out, and you could see that block traffic or allow traffic and so on. And you could also look at, I think earlier I said, even including your geography based, you could also identify where the traffic is coming from the time window that you selected, right? And from which source IPs and what are the terminate, some of the rules. So this is on the WAF dashboard. Similarly, on the VPC flow logs, this is another important dashboard because you also want to tie it up from what are your top talking source and destination IPs, where the traffic is flowing, what are some accepted and rejected traffic. So that would also give you some insights into your network security as well. So here you can see once you connect your VPC flow logs, I could also see from your source, you could pick and choose your source and what actions happened on that and how is the flow over time. And this is my favorite part of it. You could visualize the top talkers from your source to different destinations. How is the traffic flowing and where is it flowing and so on, right? And so you could also look at packets transferred. Please go ahead.
No, good. It's quite useful. I mean, that visualization is quite
yes
useful.
And you could also identify here, I think earlier when Rocket showed some DDoS simulation, you could also see those spikes as well. So like increased packet transfers at that time. And it will also give some more additional information on your network security. And lastly, I'd want to show the CloudTrail dashboards as well, what comes out of the box. And again, you could select, if you're using cross account, you could do different accounts from regions, even categories, since I enabled only management. Otherwise, you would say different event categories across your services. And you could look at events over the time by the categories, by the events. So this would give a very important overview of what's happening on your IAM as well, who is using what APIs, what services, and so on. It would give you those valuable insights into your IAM as well.
Right. What is cool is that customers don't have to create these dashboards, right? This queries and so on, which is really cool. There are a couple of questions. I'm probably only going to take the last one. KMMX are asking, so querying in OpenSearch, is it better, more powerful than existing CloudWatch query language? Well, CloudWatch today actually supports PPL, SQL, and CloudWatch Logs Insights. So, I mean, there you go. So go ahead and show that if you can. I'm not forcing you, throwing you under the bus.
I've got a query. If you want to put my want to put my screen up, I've got a query ready to go. So
that's great. Let me add you there then.
Okay. So the idea here is in CloudWatch Logs Insights, you have these different. You've got Log Insights query language. You got OpenSearch PPL, and you got the new SQL. And there's a whole bunch of saved queries and sample queries on the right. And to get to that, you click on the sample query over here. And as part of this workshop, and you'll get a potential to look around here in a little bit. We've got a series of different pre-constructed queries that we've created. In this case, what I'm looking at is I want to see the source address and the destination address and top talkers over the course of a period of time. So we constructed the SQL query to do that. In SQL queries, you get all the the SQL naturalness, or the goodness of SQL that a lot of people are used to. And you get to apply that. So you can do some outer joins, inner joins. You can do some things that you couldn't do before with the logs insights query language. So this is another option. And then you've got the piped processing language, PPL, which allows you to do one query and then apply another query to it and another query, et cetera. So these are some examples out there that you can take a look at and over time. So, yeah.
That is great. Thank you. We have 5 more minutes. I guess it is time for us to talk about the hands-on experience.
Sure. Maya, I did see a note from Daryl in here about logs equal delay, and I did want to just take a second on that, because if you could put me up on the screen, because I did want to talk through some of that, because there's a whole logic thing, and I'll sketch it out here on my screen. And it's really, where do you want to put the correlation? Where do you want to put your processing around it? You could take a metric and you can send it directly into your central processing engine, your central observability tool, and then show it on that's very, very fast, because it tends to be a single data point. But if you want to correlate that metric and do other things with it, like you want to correlate CPU with throughput, or traffic on a website, you now have to find and figure out where along that pipeline, at the agent level, at the ingest pipeline, or at your central site, where do you process that? With logs, it's a similar thing. So you can process lots of information out of logs and turn those into metrics and then send them through. It is a delay, right? So logs are more complex and there's more processing required to extract the information. And there's a lot more value inside of logs that you can extract and turn into metrics using things. There's metrics insights, and there's logs insights that allow you to turn values inside of a log entry into the metric. So I just wanted to address that and acknowledge that that's true. And it also, you can do a lot of different activities around this, so you can get more intelligence out of it. And where do you put that intelligence is a strategy that you have to apply to your environment.
Awesome. Thank you, Rocket. Like, I almost missed that question.
Yeah.
All right. So let me throw this one on the screen. So there's the QR code. This is what I've been kind of talking about since the beginning of the show. Folks, what have we done, Rocket? Like, go ahead. I'll let you explain.
Yeah, we have a workshop running that has 25 accounts in it. So the first 25 folks that join for the next 4 hours, you can play around and see the dashboards that we've created. We've walked you through a lot of that. So you get some hands-on experience. There are instructions on how to simulate your own set of vulnerabilities. And yeah, so it's an opportunity. We're trying something new. We're going to see how this works. Yeah.
And also, even after that, if you want to try it more offline, please reach out to your AWS account teams, and we're happy to have this delivered for you as well.
Yeah, that's right. We're always looking forward to talking to customers directly, and through multiple channels. Like, we get on calls to talk to you folks if you have a need to kind of hash out some architecture discussions, stuff like that, or if you want to learn about something that you didn't get a chance. And workshop is a great way to do it. Talk to your account teams, and they will make the arrangements for you. And this is not in your environment, so you don't have to spend any money on it. So this is ours, and we'll make sure we do our best to give you that hands-on experience so you can learn and implement in your environment. All right. So having said that, I hope you all used that QR code, like to scan and go to that environment. There are only 25 seats, so please go ahead and make use of it. And any parting thoughts?
I want to say thank you for hosting us. This was a joy and pleasure to do, and hopefully the folks that are watching will get a lot out of it and take the next steps.
Yeah. Thanks, Maya, for having us.
KMMX is saying that the event is not ready to join. I don't know if you have to like start the event or something like that. So please go and do that if you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And
Thank you for that update.
Thank you for that note, Ken. So
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think it's
yeah,
it's going to start now. Yeah, it's time.
Yeah.
Schedule is now.
It'll start now. Actually, it's scheduled to start at this time, so it will
Yeah.
start. So right now, it should be ready anytime now. And by the way, thank you for the audience and for the great questions. I really appreciate for you to be engaging and being interactive in the session. We really appreciate that, and it makes it more interesting and relevant for you also. And our next episode is going to be not on the 17th, which is what it is scheduled to be. It's going to be on the 24th instead. The reason why we can't do on the 17th is because we have our team is busy with the New York summit that is happening in New York, obviously, and we cannot do that week. So we're doing the following week, and also we'll stick to the one for the week after as well, as per the schedule. So tune in. That's going to be AI. So that's all I can tell, and you can watch out for the LinkedIn notifications, stuff like that. But it's all about AI and stuff. So it's going to be very interesting. Thank you all for joining. It was a blast, and I really enjoyed. I took a month-long break, and I came back, and then this is amazing. It's always great to interact with you all. Thank you, and see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.